How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Mojo Grip. Mike back with you. I've been meaning to make this video, and today we're going to cover an accident report on a Piper Malibu. This accident happened about a year ago, about this time last year. And the reason why I find it very interesting is that it's involving a mechanical error, not pilot error this time, which a lot of accidents tend to be, but this time it was the person who worked on the airplane. And the reason I find this interesting is because this is a topic that we're currently having a conversation about. And I made a video recently talking about the shortage that the FAA and the aviation industry in general is not dealing with or talking about, which is the shortage of A&P mechanics. It is causing a problem, and I think it's at the point where it needs to be addressed because it will correlate with safety and how safe airplanes are. So if you don't mind me here, I'm going to read out from my notes of the events that happened with this aircraft. So this is concerning November 4646 Golf, a Piper PA-46, and this is in Radisson, Wisconsin. Happened July 28th, 2024. Okay. The good news with this accident, no fatalities. The pilot was able to walk away. Suffered an engine loss, and he was able to crash land the airplane. But the plane totaled. Different story. The engine sustained a total loss of power when nearing the destination airport during a cross-country flight. The pilot performed a forced landing at a rural grass field, and the airplane landed hard, coming to rest upright. The pilot was able to egress from the airplane without further incident. The airplane, on the other hand, gone. Now, let's fast forward to what happened before this flight. Okay, it says here, an on-site examination of the engine found that a cap was missing from the fuel pressure test port near the front top area of the engine. The test port is where a gauge would connect during maintenance work to test the fuel pressure. Now, even without reading the whole book and the whole report for you, essentially what happened was that this owner, I don't know what their relationship is or was with the mechanic, but apparently that plane had just gone through an annual, which if you know anything about the rules and regulation with aviation, annuals generally are done by A&P mechanics, but more so an annual is signed off by an IA, from my understanding. And apparently the fellow who worked on this expensive Piper Malibu neither had an A&P certificate or an IA. So they were just your regular street dude just working on airplanes. And if you recall a video I made a couple of months ago, I talked about how dangerous it is. You do have some folks in this space, both on the pilot and maintenance side. You have some folks telling people that they're pilots and or they have certain ratings, which they do not. Okay, if you ever experience that, I'm begging you, always fact check. If somebody tells you that they're instrument rated or that they're a commercial pilot and you get an airplane with them, understand that you're doing that at your own risk. Now flip to this where someone introduces themselves as a mechanic. Now perhaps they're good with the basic stuff and or the usual maintenance stuff like an oil change and things like that. And generally speaking, at least in my experience, as an owner, you either get referred, you get a referral for a mechanic, and or you just meet people, right? And you may give them one job where you're like, hey, I'm having trouble with this, or hey, my 50-hour or 100-hour is coming up, can you help, right? But now being a commercial operator, because I run a flight school, obviously we go through proper due diligence to hire people that work on our aircraft. And that said, as an owner, you may not need to go through all of that, but I encourage you to do so. Make sure you get a copy of their license. You can double check their license ID, right? You can, look, just like you can check for a pilot, there's a public registry where you can go search somebody's certificate. And I kid you not, I've experienced just about everything in this space. There are scammers out there. There are fake IDs out there. And I want you to be careful. Now, back to this story. So this Piper Malibu had an annual performed, but it was not done by a certified mechanic. And clearly they made an error. that almost got somebody killed. And I'll read out loud from the actual report. It says the individual who performed the most recent annual inspection to the airplane did not hold an airframe and or power plant certificate, nor did he hold inspection authorization, which I just mentioned. You have to hold an A&P, which stands for airframe and power plant. But to sign off on an annual, you also have to have the privileges of an IA, which again is stated, and this person, whoever they are, did not hold neither of those things. But in being non-certificated, it says the non-certificated mechanic signed off the annual inspection and returned the airplane to service using the airframe and power plant mechanic certificate number of his deceased father. Oh my God. Talk about somebody rolling in their grave. Guys, you have to be extremely careful. So you have folks out there who, again, they may be mechanically inclined and perhaps they know how to use tools, and they're using somebody else. This is, to me, double-edged crime, where one, you're taking on the identity of somebody else, even though they're your father, and you're doing illegal work without being certificated. Okay, I don't think we need to go further over that. I'm making this video to share stories like this because they are happening, and you need to be careful, especially if you're new to this world of aviation. There are some characters out there that you need to do your own fact checking. My rule of thumb is always get referrals, right? If you trust somebody else, or you know somebody else who's been around for a while and they refer you to a mechanic or a shop, then that's better than just meeting and shaking hands with someone. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't build good relationships with people that you meet, right? But make sure you fact check. If someone says, hey, I do XYZ, right? Now, in this case, this mechanic or non-certificated mechanic presented themselves as a legitimate, authorized, and certificated mechanic, but they also had some proof. Now, imagine if their name is Dale and it's Dale Jr., right? So if someone shows you and they share the same name with their father, then chances are they're able to get away with something like this. But please be extremely careful out there. Again, the good news with this crash was that the pilot didn't sustain any crazy injuries and no fatalities. The airplane, on the other hand, totaled, and of course, insurance will have to deal with that. I'm just spreading these words because I'm seeing some things that are very concerning, and I want you to be careful. Do your due diligence on people you hire to work on your airplane. If you are to work on your own airplane, make sure you know what you're doing. And also, it doesn't hurt to get a second or third opinion about whatever is being done. Just don't end up on the news because you trusted somebody that wasn't licensed to work on your airplane. Okay, let me know your thoughts. Leave in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Again, my name is Mike. Subscribe if this is your first time, and I'll catch you on the next video. Peace.